I want to talk about the quirky things about my car, from the comical to the annoying to the absolute unacceptable mistakes made by Aston Martin. I suggest you get yourself a cup of tea and make yourself comfortable, because this list is quite long. Actually, just before I do tear my car to shreds, I do still love it. And at the end, I'll make an attempt to give it some of its dignity back. No more interruptions. Behold, possibly the shittiest car Aston Martin ever made. If you have no experience of Aston Martins, the majority of them are essentially patchwork quilts, or bits of cars. What I mean by that is it's got bits of this, bits of that. The key belongs to a cheap Ford, the wiring is mainly Jaguar Land Rover, and so is the engine. Switches and other parts from a Volvo, and the sat-nav, which isn't in the car at the moment because I'm currently making my own, is the worst sat-nav I've ever had the displeasure of using. That is also from a 2000s Volvo. There are plenty of other parts that I could mention, but feel free to add your own list in the comments. Basically, Aston Martin made the bodywork and the interior and purchased everything else off a shelf and bolted it on, which is quite normal for bespoke cars like this, but sometimes the systems don't talk to each other very well, or at all. For example, the steering wheel controls only work for phone calls. They do not adjust the volume of the stereo. This is a little lazy, Aston Martin. Keeping on the subject of systems not talking to each other, there is quite a long list. When you set the fan to demist or defrost the windscreen, it turns the AC on. The only way to use heat to defrost the windscreen is if you set it to the windscreen and feet setting. The electric windows and some other things only work when the engine is running. The engine that I'm pretty sure has two ECUs, one for idle speed and one for everything else. So when the revs switch between the two, there is a distinctive jolt, which makes it almost impossible to drive at extremely low speed. Unless you want to experience how a baby kangaroo feels inside its mother's pouch, it is horrific. The steering is so fine and responsive, merely looking away for a split second will cause you to have a near-death experience. On about certain death, there is a traction control button. I've not yet been able to work out what it's for, other than it has an LED light that is illuminated or is not illuminated. The car will happily exist in a constant sideways position at even the briefest thought of touching the accelerator in anything other than warm, dry weather. It will slide like Bambi on ice, and you're essentially a passenger princess in your own car. Despite having an engine the size of a developing country, it is surprisingly easy to stall, especially in reverse. Reverse gear is, for want of a better word, dog shit. The ratio is so low it will probably reach about 70 miles an hour, which is perfect for a Bond movie, but useless for the real world. In fact, reverse isn't the only crap gear. First gear is like trying to go shopping in France. Sometimes it's open for business, other times it is absolutely not. A little bit ahead of myself, but if I was to name one thing about this car that I absolutely hate, it's the gearbox. I've driven battered military Land Rovers that have a more refined gear change and that make less noise, which you won't be able to hear on camera, but take my word for it, it's there. A little off topic, but I feel I should mention it as it's a very big part of ownership. My last car was a Porsche, take it how you will, but women notice that car. Now the opposite is true. Women have absolutely no idea what this is, but I am now receiving a lot of eye contact from men. Moving swiftly on. Something else that gets unwanted attention is the wall behind the seats. There is no sensor to stop the seats going too far back. They will aggressively grind themselves against my carpet if I was to play with the button for slightly too long. The last of the button-related issues, the boot button. In the summer, it's not too bad, but it's so small and hard that it tries to insert itself into whatever finger or thumb you choose to operate it with. And there is no boot handle. You have to squeeze what's left of your partially violated fingers under the boot lid to actually open it. My car is a daily driver. I don't force it to hibernate for winter, but this does bring up a potentially expensive problem. The door handles that are inset into the door, if water freezes around them, they will not work. When you do finally use your superhuman strength thumb to open them, you will immediately find that the window has frozen itself in place. I can't show you because it's not yet winter, nor will I replicate this for this video. My advice is to keep an old card to hand on your person, not in the car, as that's no use. Run the card around the entirety of the window to release it. I haven't had it happen yet, but I'm positive that either the window or the regulator will be destroyed if you don't. It makes an awful clunking, banging noise if you forget. Okay, believe it or not, there are actually a lot more things I could mention, but I'll finish on this. The rear and the front lights suffer from water ingress. Second hand, a single rear light is around 500 quid. Ask me how I know. I won't even get started on the rust under the paint from the factory. All right, I am done saying hurtful things about my Vantage, but feel free to give it a telling off in the comments. Now, as promised, the reason I still love my car, and it never gets old.